My water broke onto the carpet. I stood barefoot in my pajamas, holding my belly, while my mother-in-law calmly dabbed the puddle with a kitchen towel and said, "Oh, come on, it's too early. You'll give birth at home. No hysterics." My husband nodded. Mom knows what to do. And I realized, if I want to survive, I'll have to run. And if I want justice, I'll have to take them both down. If you're listening, subscribe and drop a comment telling me which city you're in. It matters to me to know where else women are choosing themselves, no matter what. It wasn't just the pain, though it was sharp, rolling in waves that made the edges of my vision blur. It wasn't even the humiliation of standing there, soaked and gasping, while she calmly sipped her peppermint tea like I was being dramatic. It was the certainty in her voice, the entitlement. The belief that my body, my child, my birth, somehow still belonged to her. I was 6 months pregnant, still glowing from the second trimester, when Margaret moved in to help. My husband, Ben, had suggested it with a kind of pleading optimism only a man could muster. "Just until the baby comes. She's got experience. She raised me and my sisters." I had nodded. Back then, I was still trying to be agreeable. Still trying to be a good daughter-in-law, a good wife, a good future mother. Margaret arrived with 2 rolling suitcases, a box of herbal supplements, and a printed birth plan she had adjusted for me. "Natural birth, obviously," she said, unpacking lavender oils and a sound machine. "No epidural. That's poison. And no OB/GYN from Yelp. I've already spoken to Dr. Goodman. He delivered all my children." I blinked. "I already have a doctor. Dr. Ruiz." Margaret smiled without showing her teeth. "Well, we'll see about that." Ben didn't push back. Not then. Not when she suggested I change doulas. Not when she repainted the nursery from soft sage to her preferred pastel yellow. Not when she replaced my baby shower guest list with her bridge club. "She just wants to help," he'd whisper in bed while I stared at the ceiling. "You know how she is." I did. That was the problem. By the time I reached 37 weeks, I was exhausted in every possible way. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. Margaret monitored what I ate, tracked my sleep, inserted herself into every doctor's appointment. She'd even given the neighbor a stern talking to for giving me non-organic cupcakes. "Pregnant women are vulnerable," she would say, hand on my belly like she owned it. "You'll thank me later." What she meant was, "You'll obey me now." That night, the night of the contractions, I'd gone to bed early, feeling off. Not pain, exactly. Just pressure. By 2 a.m., I couldn't sleep. By 3 o'clock, I was timing the cramps with an app on my phone. At 3:30, my water broke. I didn't scream. I didn't even wake Ben. I grabbed a towel, cleaned what I could, dressed, and walked into the kitchen, phone in hand, already calling the hospital. That's when Margaret appeared, robe tied neatly, eyes sharp. "Where do you think you're going?" "I need to get to the hospital," I said, breathless. She looked me up and down, then at the wet towel in my hand. "Your water broke?" I nodded. She crossed her arms. "Then sit down. You're not going anywhere yet. First births take hours. Sometimes days. If you go now, they'll just send you back." I stared at her. "You don't understand. The contractions are 5 minutes apart." "I need to." "False labor," she said. "What you need is rest." Ben came stumbling in minutes later, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What's happening?" "She's panicking," Margaret said smoothly. "It's not real yet." "I'm not panicking," I snapped. "I'm in labor." "Sweetheart," she said to Ben, "be a dear and make her some tea. Chamomile. We need to calm her down." "I'm not drinking tea, I'm going to the hospital." Margaret stepped in front of the door. "You'll go when it's time," she said. And that was the moment. The moment I knew this wasn't just about my birth. This was about control. About power. About her final move in a chess game I hadn't even realized I was playing. But the thing about playing quiet all your life? People think you've got nothing. What they don't see is the way you memorize the board, plan the counterattack, and wait. So I sat down. I drank the tea. I breathed through another contraction. And I smiled. Because while they thought I was breaking, I was only getting stronger. And I had no intention of letting this woman raise my child or bury me before I'd even become a mother. Next time she tried to block a door, she'd find it already closed. From my side, 3 months earlier, the first sign wasn't the nursery paint or the doctor's switch. It was the schedule. A sheet of crisp paper left on the kitchen island as if by accident. Margaret's handwriting, tight, sharp, unmistakably hers, laid out a daily plan for me. 5:30, lemon water with cayenne. 7 o'clock, morning walk, 20 minutes, no phone. 10 o'clock, call with Dr. Goodman. 1400 hours, nap, no screens. 1700 hours, prenatal yoga, Margaret will supervise. At the bottom, a note in red ink. Contingency, guardianship docs, Leo drafting. Ask about psych eval timeline. I stood there for a full minute, letting the implication settle. Guardianship. As in custody. Of my child. They were already planning for the possibility of taking her from me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took a photo of the schedule and folded the original neatly back into place. Later that evening, while Margaret recounted her tennis club drama at dinner, I smiled, nodded, and made a silent vow. If they thought I was going to crumble, they'd miscalculated. The next morning, I downloaded a secure cloud storage app and began uploading everything. Photos of documents, voice memos of whispered phone calls, scans of every post-it Margaret left on the fridge. I started recording our conversations. Nothing dramatic, just subtle lines like, "You really should consider a psych consult, just to be safe. I know you're tired, but mothers don't get to be fragile. I've already spoken to the pediatrician. He understands your situation." Ben didn't notice. Or didn't want to. Margaret kept moving. Her voice lowered when she made calls. She started referring to the baby as my little girl. She booked meetings with lawyers. Said it was for the trust. I met with Alice, an old friend from college, now a family lawyer. She thought it was just catching up. Until I said, casually, "How does emergency guardianship work?" Hypothetically. Alice frowned. "Depends. But usually, it's invoked when the mother's deemed unfit." "Why?" "Just curious," I said, sipping my tea. Inside, I was already building a case. And waiting for the right moment to play it. That week, Margaret began locking the nursery door during the day. To keep the energy pure, she said. She started organizing my vitamins in a locked pill box. "You've been forgetting," she claimed. Then, one morning, I caught her holding my phone. "It buzzed," she said. "I thought it was important." That was the last straw. I bought a second phone. Activated it under another name. Hid it under the lining of my suitcase. They wanted me out of the way. I was going to disappear, but not how they expected. Weeks later, the birth happened. The chaos. The hospital. The lie Margaret told the nurses about my mental state. The way she held my daughter before I did. And then, just like that, I stopped fighting. I stopped pushing back against her ideas. I stopped questioning the revised pediatrician list. I nodded. I smiled. I said, "Thank you." Margaret took all of that as surrender. She told Ben, "See? I told you she just needed guidance. Some women aren't natural mothers right away. But she'll learn." And he nodded. As always. For a while, they believed I was broken. Margaret began introducing me as Rachel, the girl who had a tough birth but is recovering beautifully thanks to structure. I smiled politely, handed over the bottle, and played my part. Because I had finally learned the only way to beat a woman like Margaret was not to confront her. It was to make her feel safe, respected, in control, then take everything she loved. While they rearranged the nursery for better energy flow, I was rearranging folders on my encrypted drive. Bank statements, foundation reports, photos of documents, an invoice for $18,000 spent on pregnancy nutrition seminars held at a private spa resort in Tahoe. While Margaret handpicked the baby's wardrobe for the next year, I was pulling quotes from board meeting minutes, the ones where she overruled objections to non-competitive contracts, the ones where she pushed emergency disbursements to a shell account hours before filing quarterly reports. Lauren Maddox, the journalist, was already intrigued. "Send me what you have," she said. "If it's solid, this could blow the whole network wide open." Oh, it was solid. And it was personal. Because the Whitmore Foundation wasn't just a charity. It was Margaret's altar, the place where she pretended to save women like me while planning to legally erase one who lived under her roof. The more I dug, the clearer the pattern became. Margaret's whole life was built on controlling women under the guise of saving them. She had supported a niece through college, only to control every credit card. She helped a friend through a divorce, then took the children's trust accounts into temporary management. And me? I was just the latest project. The latest unfit woman she could fix. Only I wasn't unfit. I was furious. And I was quiet about it. So when she began her postnatal observation journal, the one where she logged my mood swings, I let her. When she asked Ben to sign a draft emergency guardianship document, just in case, I waited until he left his laptop open and emailed a copy to my encrypted inbox. I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. Every day, I played house. I laughed at Margaret's jokes in front of her bridge friends. I let her stage photos of me napping peacefully with the baby. I even agreed to attend a parenting support brunch she hosted, where she introduced me to donors as our little miracle in progress. They all smiled at me. I smiled back. No one noticed I was watching, recording, building. By week 6 postpartum, I had a full dossier. By week 8, Lauren Maddox had already started drafting her piece. By week 9, I had found a small rental in Colorado under an alias. And one morning, while Margaret discussed crystal mobiles for proper infant chakra balance, I smiled and nodded, because she was so sure she had one. And that was exactly how I needed her to feel. What she didn't know was that every nap I took, every silence I gave her, every thank you I uttered, was a brick in the wall I was building. A wall she would never get through again. I got up at 3:37 a.m. Not because the baby cried, she was sleeping soundly, peacefully. Something inside me had simply gone quiet. Even the fear. Only silence remained. Certainty. I dressed her in the soft romper, the very one Margaret called impractical. I grabbed the pre-packed bag and zipped it closed. I passed Ben's bedroom. He was snoring. Everything as usual. On the kitchen table, I left a note. Ben, you always chose her. I'm choosing our daughter. She will not grow up believing obedience is the price of love. Good luck explaining the rest to the press. Rachel. Next to it, a folder. Documents, a flash drive, a court filing. Everything they'd need to understand I meant business. And finally, a petition to restrict Margaret's access to the child. Grounds listed: psychological pressure, attempted forgery of guardianship documents, financial coercion. I shut the door behind me. No slam, no theater. Just a full stop. In the cab, the driver glanced back. An early departure? A new start, I said. He nodded and didn't ask anything more. He was the first man in a long time who didn't want anything from me. 9 hours later, I was holding my daughter in a rental apartment. A tiny kitchen. A white door that locked from the inside. Freedom didn't smell like perfume or coffee. It smelled like clean sheets and quiet. At noon, the story was published. The family behind the foundation, control, fraud, and a stolen motherhood. I didn't read it right away. I already knew every paragraph. Lauren and I had written it together. I just sat on the floor with the baby and waited. Ben called first, 23 minutes after publication. I answered. Rachel? Where are you? Far away. You really handed everything to the reporters? Yes. Everything I couldn't make you understand, I explained to the world. He was silent. Then, you realize what you've done? Mom's hysterical. The foundation's frozen. People are calling investors. She says you made it all up. And what do you think? I don't know. I didn't know she was planning to file for guardianship. I didn't know about the documents. Ben, you knew she controlled my every move. You knew and stayed quiet. I thought it was just help. His voice broke. You could have said something. I did. Many times. And now? Is this revenge? No. This is protection. A pause. He said more quietly. Come back. We'll remove Mom from everything. I'll say on camera that you were right. We'll fix it. For the baby. I was silent for a long time. Then, calmly. This isn't a negotiation. These are boundaries. They're set. He didn't hang up. He just breathed into the receiver as if he'd lost his bearings. I hung up for him. 2 hours later, Margaret called. Rachel. Her voice was dry. Cold. You must think you've won. I'm not competing. You've humiliated me. At my age. For what? Because I wanted stability for your child. You wanted control. You got consequences. You've ruined my reputation. My foundation. My family. You ruined it yourself, Margaret. I just turned on the lights. Silence. Then, in a lower, almost hissing voice. You think I'll give up? I think you don't know what to do for the first time. And that scares you. I put the phone down. The next day, CNN, the New York Times, BuzzFeed, they were all calling. I didn't answer. I rocked the baby by the window and whispered, "We're home, baby. Finally home." They arrived at Margaret's mansion at 6:13 a.m. 3 men in black jackets, with a search warrant. She stood in a robe, lips pressed tight, and didn't immediately understand the phrase. The financial unit. Nonprofit organizations division. You know why we're here. Later they would show it on the news. Not her face, the door opening. How they carried out folders, servers, boxes stamped, Whitmore Foundation. Board use only. I watched the report in my pajamas, a cup of cheap coffee in my hand, sitting on the floor. My daughter crawled nearby, gnawing on a stuffed toy. The running headline read, "Founder of women's charity may be at the center of the decade's biggest financial scandal." A week later, a summons arrived. A petition to have me declared emotionally unstable. Margaret. Of course. The grounds, sudden mood swings, unpredictable decisions, dangerous behavior toward the child. I showed the letter to Alice, the same lawyer who had helped assemble the dossier. She laughed. Classic. If you can't control a woman, call her crazy. Only this time, I added, the crazy one prepared the evidence. The court date was set a month out. In the meantime, I went back to work, writing copy for websites. Quiet. No photos. No social media. I lived in a house with a peeling porch in Colorado, among neighbors who didn't know my last name or hers. At the local library, a woman in glasses once asked, "Are you new here?" "Yes. It's nice. Folks around here don't pry." "Exactly why I'm here," I replied. 2 days later, Lauren, the journalist, sent a message. Margaret hired a new lawyer. And not just any lawyer. The name was recognizable. Famous for aggressive tactics. A specialist in public rehabilitation. That wasn't the twist. The twist was that this lawyer was Ben's father. His father. Margaret's ex-husband. The man who left 20 years ago and never came back. I didn't believe it at first. He agreed to defend her? I asked Lauren. Yes. More than that. He's already given interviews. He says you manipulated the poor old woman. That you pose a danger to the child and to the family as a whole. I sat in silence. The emptiness inside felt like a scorched field. Rachel? Lauren's voice softened. Are you okay? You know, I said, now I have only one question. What's that? Who will feel worse on the stand, Margaret, or the man who knows how she treated us and still became her shield? The trial was approaching. I wasn't planning just to defend myself. I was going to defend everyone they labeled emotionally unstable simply because we refused to stay silent. The hearing was set for 9 a.m. I arrived early with Alice, my lawyer, and a folder I held so tight my knuckles went white. Margaret was already seated in the courtroom. Hair perfect, pearls in place, a severe navy suit. A leather handbag on her lap, and a portrait of a great woman, suffering for her family. She saw me, nodded. Smiled. Without a word. Ben sat beside her, hunched over. He looked like a schoolboy waiting to be called into the principal's office. The judge entered. It began. Margaret's lawyer stood first. Your Honor, our side contends the child's mother is emotionally unstable. We have testimony from family members, medical records, and proof she suddenly disappeared with the infant without notice, exposing the child to risk. The judge nodded. Exhibits admitted. Ms. Martin, your turn. Alice stood. Your Honor, we also have documents. Not fabricated ones, authentic. The words of truth are in Margaret Whitmore's own notes. I stood, folder in hand. My voice was calm. Rachel emotionally unstable. Ben doesn't see it yet. Explore guardianship. Accelerate if postpartum signs appear. Dr. Goodman on board. Keep her off balance. I looked up. The judge watched me closely. These are her notes. Entries made before the child's birth, without my knowledge, without Ben's. I flipped a page. Correspondence with counsel. Prepare paperwork for temporary custody. Frame it as concern. Use the medical angle if needed. Alice added, and the medical records. Not a single diagnosis confirming a disorder. Not one. It's all fabrication. Ben jumped up. Your Honor. I didn't know. I wasn't informed. This wasn't me. He turned to me. Rachel, you know I wouldn't have agreed. Never. I was trying to be between you. He stepped toward me and reached out. Rachel. I stepped back. Calmly. Don't touch me, Ben. You can't expect me to take all the blame for this. I'm not blaming you. I know. He opened his mouth, tried to speak. He didn't get the chance. The judge rapped his gavel. Enough. A pause. The court rules. The petition is denied. Full custody remains with the mother. Margaret Whitmore and any third parties may have contact with the child only by the mother's written consent. Margaret clenched the purse handle. Her face stayed composed, but her fingers trembled. She approached me as we left. She leaned in. Her voice was cold. You think you've won? I looked her straight in the eye. No fear, no hatred, only clarity. I don't think. I know. And by the way, I'm not finished yet. We were about to go when the judge spoke again. Ms. Whitmore. Yes. The court will refer portions of the materials to the tax authority and the Committee on Nonprofit Organizations. We are not closing this matter. We are expanding it. Margaret froze. For the first time, truly. I took my daughter's hand, smiled at her and said, Come on, sweetheart. We don't owe anyone anything anymore. A year passed. I live in a house with a white facade, a creaky staircase, and a yellow nursery. Yellow, not the kind the foundation demanded, per the psychologist's recommendation. The kind I wanted, warm, sunny, eggshell. The color a child wakes up to with a smile. I have a name again. My own. Not Mom, not the project, not the crazy daughter. Just Rachel. I write copy for websites, sometimes for magazines. Sometimes for myself. I drink coffee without worrying that it's not approved by Dr. Goodman. And my daughter, she's growing. No one tells her how to be a child. Sometimes I dream about the trial. Ben. Margaret. I wake up and hear the silence. And I understand. We survived. This morning I received a letter. Handwritten. An envelope with no return address. The handwriting old-fashioned, steady. I knew whose it was. Rachel. I'm dying. Stage 4. There will be no court this time. No tricks. I wanted to hate you. I told myself you destroyed everything. But what you really destroyed was the illusion that I had the right to control another woman's life. I'm not asking forgiveness. But I am leaving something for her. My granddaughter. There's a key enclosed. Do with it what you want. Margaret. The key was odd, heavy, old, like a bank vault key. That evening I went to the bank listed on the accompanying card. I hadn't planned to go, but I went. Inside, a safety deposit box. I opened it. There was a folder. Title, T. Whitmore Education Trust. On the first page. For her. Unconditionally. No clause. No access. No control. And a signature. Plain. Without pearls. I sat in the car, the folder on my knees. And I cried. Not from pain. Not from forgiveness. From the fact that, for the first time in her life, this woman had done something right. 2 weeks after the letter, I opened the bank box again. I checked the trust. The money was there. A lot. For college, for life, for my daughter's security. I closed it and put it back in the box. Unmarked. I wasn't going to take it. I don't take revenge on the dead. I just won't let them live inside me. And a month later, another letter arrived. Not from Margaret. From a woman named Allison. Inside the envelope, a copy of a handwritten card. Allison, do you still think you can be a mother? We both know you won't make it. M. Whitmore. Dated 2006. On the back, a note from Allison herself. She tried to take my child too. I kept quiet. But after your story, I won't anymore. That was the real ending. I thought I was saving only myself and my daughter. It turned out I'd pulled someone else out too. Maybe more than one.